You're tuned in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, guiding your gridiron journey, none other than your host, former NFL lineman, Ross Tucker.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. I never do it. I bring you the energy 25 minutes every single day here on the RT Media Podcast Network. If you haven't already checked out the College Draft or Even Money or the Fantasy Feast podcast this week, you absolutely should. And you'll have plenty of time to do so over the next 3 days before we are back bright and early on Monday morning. How about today's guest? Longtime NFL safety. He still starts for the New Orleans Saints. He's been a Pro Bowler. He's been All-Pro. He's won a Super Bowl. I am hoping, if we have time at the end, to get to some winners. Those of you that have spread the word via social media or given us a YouTube comment or even gone ahead and taken advantage of one of the sponsors. But first, it's Tyrann Mathieu. It's Big Show time.
The Big Show.
Really been looking forward to this one. Had a chance to talk with him a couple different times out at the NFL's broadcasting workshop going into year 11, which honestly just makes me feel really old because I remember watching him in college and then the draft and all that. Just makes me even feel like more of a has-been. He's Tyrann Mathieu, year 11, back in his hometown with the New Orleans Saints. Tyrann, thanks so much for coming on the show, man. Really appreciate it.
Ross, how you doing, man? Nah, it's cool to
great.
be here with you.
Wish I was doing as good as you, man. Year 11, back in your hometown. You've made a bunch of dough. You've won a Super Bowl. I mean, you scripted this thing out pretty good, man.
Man, I tell you one thing. I didn't have anything to do with it. You know what I mean? I still remember, when I first got drafted to the Cardinals, man, and just walking in the locker room with like Larry Fitzgerald and Patrick Peterson, right? And I'm just like, I'm starstruck. So it's like, to be able to still be around, man, it's been a blessing for sure.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I wanted to start there because obviously the draft was a couple weeks ago now at this point. And I remembered, Tyrann, you having there being concerns about you when you were coming out in the draft. I didn't remember you missing a whole season. Like I forgot about that. So before we get to the draft, because I think it's interesting the fact that you're what you are now, right? Long-time successful vet going to year 11 after being a guy with quote unquote red flags coming out. But start with that. I mean, you love football. You're awesome at it. That season you had in college was ridiculous. What was that year like when you weren't playing at all? I guess it's kind of like an injury, but what was that like?
Yeah. Man, it was tough. I'll tell you one thing, man. I still remember going to the first game that year that I was suspended, right? And I think we were playing against Washington, the Huskies. And I remember sitting in the stands because I couldn't be a part of the football team at that point. And man, I felt so out of place, man. You know what I mean? And actually a couple months later, I ended up getting arrested on campus. And it was really that experience and really that situation that kind of, got me to redirect myself. And I remember calling Patrick Peterson and just asking him man, what do you think I should do? And he was like, man, you should go to Florida, train with my dad and just get ready to go to the NFL. And, me not knowing anything, I just took Pat's word for it, man. And to be honest, that was probably the best thing I did. Get away from Louisiana, get around Patrick Peterson's father, who, he's all about routine and structure and discipline. And I think at that time is exactly what I needed.
Okay, so I was going to ask you because I've had scouts say to me before, multiple scouts, that when a guy's a quote unquote red flag guy, that it always comes back to haunt him, right? Like it always comes back. Maybe they might be good for a few years, but then when they get the second contract or whatever quote unquote issues they had, they always come to roost. I don't want to jinx you, man. I don't think it has.
Right.
I mean, you're going into year 11 and it's never happened. That I feel like that's pretty rare for a guy to have, the issues you had and miss a whole year and all that stuff to come in. And now when I talk with you and anybody talks to you, you're just like, as polished and professional as anyone. Was it the suspension? Was it the arrest? Was it going with Patrick's dad and you've been good ever since? Or was it a combination of all three of those things? What kind of snapped for you?
Man, for me, I think a big piece of that is football, right? And I think, not being able to play football for that year, man, it just made me want to commit so much more to the game, and I was like, man, when I get my chance again, like I'm gonna show everybody that I'm a good teammate, that I can still, make plays. And what I really like to remind people is that, I wasn't really a bad kid. Before the LSU incident, you really didn't hear anything negative. People didn't really have anything negative to say about me. I was never really late for meetings. I was always on time. I was a great teammate. I was good with coaches. I think for me, man, people just kind of got it, misconstrued in a sense that, they thought I was like riding around with guns or put my hands on women. And it was like, nah, I didn't have those type of character issues. For me, man, it was much deeper, in the therapy on a personal level, things that I had to, unpack and address, because over the course of my life, I always find myself self-inflicting myself, like kind of, putting a roadblock in front of myself. And man, I think, man, once I stopped doing that, life has been good, man. I try to be honest and open with friends and mentors, right? Because, if they don't know what you're going through or what space you in, then they don't know what to tell you, So I try to keep that up front. And man, it's been a blessing because I've had a lot of great people, to kind of help me and walk with me on this journey.
So it's interesting you say. I just saw recently on Brady's Instagram where he was talking about how he's used all kinds of different therapy throughout his career and life for
Yeah.
different reasons, and he's a huge proponent supporter. Is that something that you still used, or that you've used during your career, or are you kind of at a good point where you don't need that? I don't even know what guys do now as active players, if that's just something that guys incorporate into their weekly routine or what?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been doing it, really since I've gotten into the league. And I've always kind of, I wouldn't say always, but when I kind of ran into my issues at LSU, that one-on-one counseling, that one-on-one therapy, I had began to do that. So I've been doing that for, close to 12, 13 years now. You know what I mean? And but as I've gotten into the league, you realize yoga, is a form of medicine, right? Like practicing mindful meditation, and so I actually, when I was in Arizona, I met this guy named Donnie Starkins. He was like my yoga coach, and he kind of grew into that mindful meditating space, right? And so me and him have been rocking, for a long time now. But yeah, it's people like that, man, that come into your life, and they try to help elevate you and push you, forward.
I can't remember if you did a TV show or something, but I just remember it's almost like you were at a party and the Arizona Cardinals called you and they were like, listen, like or maybe they called your agent and they're like, listen, like we're gonna draft you, but you
Yeah,
gotta do X, Y, and Z. I can't remember exactly what it was. And
yeah,
Patrick was there, right? So he
yeah,
probably vouched for you. I guess I
yeah.
wonder what would have happened if Patrick wasn't there and Patrick didn't vouch for you, you know?
Right, and it's crazy. I still remember getting that call, right? And the first thing Michael Bidwell told me was, I'm gonna draft you, but I'm gonna drug test you too. So I'm
That's the
like,
first
man,
thing
what?
he said.
I'm like, yeah, first thing he said. And he wanted me to commit to that, right? And like I said, man, at that point, man, I had went so long without football, and I had, some real life experiences happen to me and kind of helped shape me, not being able to play, getting kicked off the team and then getting arrested, So I felt like I was in a good space. But to your question, man, I think if Patrick Peterson wasn't there, Bruce Arians was a really, really strong advocate for me. His wife does a lot of work, with inner city kids, and
Yeah.
I think that they feel like they could really connect with people, like me. And so man, that was a blessing too, to have a head coach like that. You know what I mean? To keep it personal, fun, exciting. You know what I mean? Challenge you. Man, he was everything I needed, as a coach, and much more. When I first came into the league.
You know, his foundation is awesome. I have a buddy that works with it, and actually Bruce is from like 30 minutes that way down the road. So
Okay.
pretty familiar here in central Pennsylvania with Bruce. All right. So the last thing in terms of, we talked about the draft, you got the rookies, the whole deal. What would be your advice to rookies, and maybe in particular, rookies that are coming out with a situation somewhat similar to yours?
Yeah, man. My advice is simple, man. Like, keep the main thing the main thing. Try to maximize, these first few years in the NFL. Try to learn as much as you can. Try to create and develop strong habits, positive habits. And then find those vets, man. I tell kids all the time. They ask me because they want to know like a secret sauce, and I don't really have it, right? It's just that, man, I felt so fortunate, right? And then you see some kids come in the league, and you like, man, they don't have any leaders around them. You could just see it coming, right? And but man, I was so blessed because when I walked in the locker room, man, like I said, it's Larry Fitzgerald, Patrick Peterson, Calais Campbell, Jay Feely. You know what I mean? So it's like these are guys that have played in the league a really, really long time and not just played well on the field. Like these guys, they represent, success off of it too, with their foundations and, different business endeavors. And so, man, those are the guys that I was so reluctant to be around, because now I feel like one of those guys now, right? And so I knew that I was following the right people. And I think that's so important in this game, man. Follow the right people, and because you want to be able to maximize it, right? Like, like we were just talking about, man. I was at the media workshop, right? Like, so I mean, you can play 10 years, you can play 5 years, you can play 2 years, right? But you can still be a part of this game, one way or another, right? And so, but you have to put yourself in position, to be able to do that. And I think, step one is like following the right people, man. The guys that's going to tell you the truth and really, really hold you responsible and accountable, for just being a pro.
So I mentioned earlier you're going to year 11, and the success you've had with the Pro Bowls and the awards, and you've gotten a bunch of good contracts. You've won a Super Bowl. When you wake up now every morning, right? What's the biggest motivator now to keep, you're 5'9", however much you weigh,
Yeah,
to keep
yeah,
playing, to keep this thing going? Is it just, have the longest career? Is it just play until the wheels fall off? Is it try to win another one? Is it just
yeah.
have the best career possible, make some more money? Like what's the biggest motivator for you at this point?
Man, for me, man, I hope that I, really could just be the kind of instrument to others that people were to me, and man, if I can continue to inspire guys to, want to sign a big contract, to, want to go back home, represent their team. I just feel like I'm in such a position, man, and I represent, so many of us, football players, right? And so, but yeah, man, I want to see everybody around me do well. I love seeing a guy come in like fifth round, sixth rounder, right? Like, and he makes a Pro Bowl, then he gets paid, right? Like, and people know his name now, and on the opposite end, I like kids that come in, right, and then like they're knucklehead, right? Like they're late to meetings, right? Like, and you get on them, right, and then you can see that growth as the year end, right? Like, so for me, man, like that's what it's all about.
That's awesome. Tell me the pros and cons of playing back in your hometown. Because it's funny, I always, I'm from outside of Philly. I always wanted to play for the Eagles, and that would have been awesome, except number
Yeah.
one, all the tickets and stuff, but also like I thought about like what if I gave up a sack to lose the Super Bowl?
Oh
Like
yeah,
I would
yeah.
never be able to go back to my hometown. You know what I mean? Like, so
Man, I
what are the
tell you,
pros and cons?
man, it was rough. I tell you a quick story, man. We was playing the Bengals, not last season, the year before. And, it was when Jamar Chase, broke like two tackles. He had to walk off, touchdown on me, basically. And man, that's all I was thinking about, man. I said, man, I can't go outside no more, ever again. You know what I mean? But man, I love it, to be honest, man. I think the pros is, man, you get to be around family, right? Like, and family is so important, man. Good friends, like all that is so important. And just having that support, man, and having that energy around you, and I'll probably say the cons is just what you said, man. I mean, I only could get so many tickets. And then after a while, it's like, yo, why am I spending $30,000 for tickets? You know what I mean? So I'm like, That's definitely like the worst part about it. And the family section after the game, right? As you know, Ross, like they only give you a certain number of bands, but everybody can't bring all their family down, after the game. So it's like now I got family members fighting each other. Everybody trying to get on the field. They think Drew Brees still down there. I said Drew Brees don't play for us anymore, man. he, he, he not down there.
That is funny, man. Yeah, that's it varies from team to team for sure, but that's funny.
Yeah.
I remember the first game I dressed for as a rookie was at Philly for the Redskins.
Oh
And I
wow.
said to my family, I'm like, do not even think about wearing any Redskins clothing. Like, and they know
Yeah.
because they're from there. I'm like, I know you're rooting for me. Don't put your
Yeah.
do not do that. Like, we know what it's like. You do not want to
Yeah.
be that person. It's not worth it. Um, I guess the last one I have for you, last one or two, Saints this season.
Yeah.
Obviously, you just had the draft. I love the O tackle you got from Oregon State. I did an Oregon
Yeah.
State game last year against San Jose State. He gets after people. I think you'll like him. What are you
Yeah.
thinking about this year? Feels like your division's still kind of wide open again this year.
Yeah, man. I think our motto this year, man, is to just keep our head down and work. Like don't even cater or give in to expectations if there are any. You know what I mean? I think the last 2 years, man, we finished 9-8 last year. Wasn't good enough, and then a year before we were 7-9. So it's like, man, like we don't even need anybody to talk about us. Like we just need to work hard. We have the players, and man, like Ross, man, like 7-9, 9-8, like man, all you need to do is steal 2 or 3 games. Like, and you probably had them. Just drop the ball late, right? Like so. Man, like if we could just do that and put ourselves in a position, man, to really win 10, 11 games, I think that would be good enough, you know what I mean, to be able to win our division. And so yeah, man, we just need to work hard. I think we have the players. I'm excited about the offense. I think all those boys are excited over there. They get Kubiak in, over from the San Fran. So, all those motions and adjustments. I know how hard it is to cover it as a defensive man. So it's like I get it. I know why they're excited, right? Like they're just gonna have the ball in space. So yeah, man, like if we could play well on that side of the ball and then defensively, man, if we could just continue to take the ball away and do what we do, I think we'll give ourselves a good shot, man.
Last question. Because I was talking about this with a lot of people as it relates to the draft. So you're only 5'9", right? So that's not
Yeah,
a strength of yours. Even going back to LSU, though, the ball like finds you, right? It's
yeah, yeah,
unbelievable. And so I think especially at off the ball backer, inside backer, and safety, that is like critical. Some guys just see it. It's like you
yeah.
watch basketball players, hockey guys, when they Caitlin Clark, like when she's passing, like they just see it, right? How
Yeah.
much of that, like, can a guy improve? And how much of it's, man, that's just kind of the way I've always been? Because it was very clear for you, college, NFL, you just see things before they happen. Did you
Yeah.
do anything for that to happen, or was that just a blessing you got from God?
I think it was a little bit of both, and I was always one of those defenders with really every system I played in. I really wanted to know like where the weaknesses were, right? Like so I know what to expect, and so for me that has always been like, really, really, important to me. I think the more you watch film and then the more you play too, practice, I think that's definitely a skill that you can develop or you can at least heighten it, and I encourage it. I encourage guys to like understand what the offense is doing, but like know where your guys are at, right? Like and so you can anticipate where you think the ball is going, right? Or where you think this running back is going to what hole he's going to cut through. And I think the guys that anticipated, obviously they play, at a higher level, but I do think it's something that, can really grow on you. And like I said, man, it's all about surrounding yourself around the right people. Because before I got to the NFL in college, right, it was mostly like read and react. And then I got to the Cardinals, and then we had this guy named Rashad Johnson, who was like a 2-time champion with Nick Saban, and he never like stopped communicating. And I was like, oh, that's how you play safety, right? But he wasn't a guy that was fast or like he didn't have any he didn't have Patrick Peterson, skill set, but he was always around the football. And so I knew at that point, like, it does take some mental processing. Like, you have to get that part too, especially at this level.
Tyrann, where can people follow you on social media or a foundation or anything you want some of my listeners to go check out?
Yeah. I mean, on all social media accounts, Matthew underscore error. And then my foundation is TyrannMathieu.org. So feel free to chip in.
I love it, man. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Maybe I'll get you on again at some point and you can talk about how broadcasting's a lot harder than you thought it
Football.
was.
Yeah.
But hey, you just keep doing like you did on this interview, man. You'll be just fine. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Man, thank you, Ross. Anytime you need me, holla, man.
Absolutely awesome stuff from Tyrann, as expected. Speaking of awesome, hopefully you guys follow me on social media at Ross Tucker NFL. I think in particular on Instagram, grilling season is here. I was once again grilling on Sunday. I grilled these American Wagyu burgers. So good. They have an awesome partnership, does the folks at Good Rancher with PVA, Paralyzed Veterans of America. Here's the offer: 8 free American Wagyu burgers in each box. So each box you get for a year. That's a $400 value, plus a delicious free bacon butter gift. Free express shipping. Huge fan of GoodRanchers.com. This summer burger special. Love their partnership with PVA. Love my discount code. Good Ranchers, America Meat Delivered. Here's the deal, okay? Go to GoodRanchers.com, subscribe to any of their custom curated boxes, use my code ROSS at checkout to get the free American Wagyu burgers, which are amazing. That's $400 value with my code ROSS. GoodRanchers.com, American Meat Delivered. By the way, it's impossible to be eating meat or grilling and not drinking Labatt Blue Light. It is absolutely delicious. Drink some Labatt Blue Lights with your friends. Live life to the power of we. Always enjoy responsibly. Beer, Labatt USA, Buffalo, New York.
Tuck's Takes.
All right, Ross. Chiefs receiver Rashee Rice, he's under investigation for alleged assault of a photographer at a Dallas nightclub.
Not good. Not good at all. I think we talked about this. We hit on it on the Fantasy Feast podcast with Joe Dolan yesterday, going over some of the receivers that were drafted. But this opens up opportunity potentially for Xavier Worthy. You know, this is back-to-back incidents for Rice, and I've seen some stuff going on around the internet. Evidently, there were some red flags and some concerns about Rice coming out of SMU, and now, you know, rookie year, you're successful, you win the Super Bowl, and now we've got some what they would call knucklehead activity.
The NFL schedule is set to be released Wednesday next week, the 15th.
Usually it would be tonight. Last year it was tonight, you know, the second Thursday, I guess, in May. Instead, it's next Wednesday. I think probably the Christmas thing threw a couple wrenches in it, but that's obviously always a very big day. We kind of previewed it on the Even Money podcast on Tuesday. Even if you're not into betting, just how bettors look at the schedule release is very, very interesting.
Got some signings. Browns, they signed center Brian Allen. Panthers, they signed running back Rashad Penny. And the Raiders signed offensive lineman Andrews Pete.
Right, so they're just still looking at their roster. Where do we still need depth? Where do we still need competition? Where did we not get somebody in the draft that we thought we might?
And CFL MVP Chad Kelly has been suspended 9 games by the league for violating their gender-based violence policy.
Obviously a very talented young man, but also a very troubled young man. I mean, this goes back to like high school, college, NFL, CFL. He just has some issues and has never really quite been able to get it right. Spread the word winner, Bo Brock on Twitter, at Ross Tucker Pod. Sponsor confirmation email winner, Tommy Alamosa. He bought 15 30-packs of Labatt Blue Light YouTube shout out, Stephen Koshel. Have a terrific weekend, everybody. I think we're done here.
Thanks for tuning in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also check out Even Money, Fantasy Feast, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network on Samsung TV Plus, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.
Shout out myfrontpagestory.com. By far the best Mother's Day gift ever. No, it's not too late. Yes, I will still send you an autograph in the mail if you get one of these stories and then forward it to me, ross@rosstucker.com. If there's a better Mother's Day gift, I'm not aware of it. Backofficescheduler.com, steakhousesports.com, humanheadnyc.com.